My rant for the week, I'm going to keep it brief. We talked about it while we were on mic. We just weren't recording. This one is actually tech related. I've been working on an app. Let's just call it an app for now. Um, Script app, whatever you want to call it. It takes and I'm sure you streaming and you gamers out there have seen it. So we've seen stuff like it, like eclipse.gg or sizzle.gg, where you import your VOD and you get back your gaming highlights for posting on your social services, YouTube, TikTok, etc., etc. Well, I'm stingy because I like my money in my pocket. And
It's
this,
called frugal.
as the economy get frugal. As we're fighting wars and things are getting more expensive in the world, I'm paying more attention to the money that I'm keeping in my pocket. So I decided to use my knowledge and some light abilities to write myself what I call a, stream clipper. Well, we've got all these AI models out there. I've not tried Claude. I get it. I wanted to try it and stick with what I knew and supplement that with our popular AI models, Copilot, and Gemini. To make the story a little shorter, you do it the Copilot way. You get 15, 20 pages of code, which is expected, and you get all these resource files with it that Copilot says you need, that Copilot says you need to create, and you create those, and the app runs. The app ran in the Copilot way of building it. So then I decided to take the same project, same code base that I had started, and ask Gemini the same questions. Gemini condenses this down to 2 pages, no independent files, no independent resources. I asked Gemini for a little help building the GUI because I'm not a graphic artist when it comes to building that type of thing. And it scaffolded out around my functions, and I'm still looking at one page for an app. It's based on Python. I have a one-page app, app.py. For those developers out there, Python space app.py, it runs. You go over to the Copilot version, Python space app.py. It's got to check for all those resources. It's got to read all the files. Give it another 30 seconds. Then it's ready. And if you try to take the Copilot version to another PC, it ain't happening. You take the Gemini version to a different PC, you zip your folder, you unzip it, you run your installer, you're good to go. Now, there's developers out there that, oh, David, this is how you do it. This is how you fix it. I understand that. I can figure that out. My point here is, why are our AI models so different when coding is pretty much the same? Your when you pick a language, your outputs should be similar.
So you're paying for the differentiators. This is the same model you use for any type of thing that has a standard customer set base. So again, if I'm a store and I sell potatoes, the only differentiator is either the type of potato or the price.
True.
And if everybody's selling AI and you can't really differentiate on the price right now, then you differentiate on the flair, the design, the output. And again, I'm not saying it's a good thing. I think it might be to the detriment of development. Like you should be able to have a consistent development framework and development code and everything executed correctly.
Yep.
But I think what they're trying to say is, if you get ours, you get it this way. At the end of the day, it should balance itself out to what you need, but it has a little bit of flair, a little bit of design, a little bit of change, something that's different. And again, if you like coding and doing extra steps for no apparent reason, go with Copilot. If you want something straightforward, go with Gemini.
I've got to give Gemini credit. I know we're Microsoft through and through, but I've got to give Gemini credit on this one. what it produces. Now, I'm an older guy. I learned to code at a younger age. Maybe coding has changed. Maybe I'm the one that's behind. But the way Gemini produces it is the way I learned it. Back in the day, it's a very readable code. It's easy to edit. It's easy to change. It's easy to write new functions. Copilot's iteration of it is, excuse my French, where the hell's that at? Or where the hell did you put that? That's kind of, and then you have to give it another prompt. Well, where is this? Well, then it goes off on a tangent.
That's all it is. You're missing the whole point. It's going right over your head. Copilot wants attention. It wants constant communication.
It must be.
If I got to talk to you about asking about over and over, we're developing a friendship. That's what it wants. Gemini is cold and calculated. Nobody wants that.
Well, for coding, I like cold and calculated.
No, you're wrong. You need a friend. You need a friend that'll take in the wrong direction. My rant is twofold. And again, we talked about this.
Okay, what you got?
I think you're going to agree with me, and I hope everyone else does. And I'll make it short again. One, the charging cables or data cables or devices need to be made out of whatever is on the space station. I will pay for it extra if it lasts longer. And I'm going to say this because the other part of my rant is that the technology for CarPlay and Android Auto needs to be, I don't know if it's proprietary or if it's just better Bluetooth. It needs to be built in so that we're not connecting our cables to our cars, because I am suffering constantly from moving the phone or the phone sliding as I'm driving and losing all of my Android Auto, or my wife losing her Apple CarPlay. And this is constant. And I say this because there was a device that was presented at Mobile World Congress, which is a dongle, which I think is great, that you can plug into this thing and allow your phone to be, mounted if you need to, or put in your purse or whatever, if you need it just away. But the idea is that it won't be connected to the car via cable that seems to be, an eyelash sensitive as far as the movement in your cars, because these cables that we have don't last very long. So that's my rant, is fix the cable or advance the technology in the car so that we don't necessarily need to plug in it all the time. I know you might need it for security reasons or for data transfers, but I think we should be able to just use faster Bluetooth if that's the case. And then again, you can mount your phone on a MagSafe thing if you need to, where there's no, again, I think it's also aesthetically pleasing. You don't have a cable hanging down and going across your ventilation system or your knobs or whatever else it is in your car. This is just, we should be advancing. I don't know why we're still using cables. What is this, 5 years in now, 6 years in, 7 years into Android Auto and CarPlay? Bluetooth, people, Bluetooth. Go ahead.
I gotta, you bring up a great point, because we've been doing this for years. If you think about it, what you just asked for, we've been doing for years. Go get a Turtle Beach headset. That's just first thing that comes to mind. There's other things to do. When you turn that headset on, what do? They create a private Wi-Fi network that nothing else can use. And they automatically attach to that network. So why couldn't we put that in the stereo headsets like you're talking about in our car, to where only Apple knows to look for that network, and that network puts out a certain signal that Apple understands, and one person can connect to CarPlay, or all 5 people in the car can connect to CarPlay if that's what's needed. It makes sense, man. That's why we don't have it.
With that being said, let's move into our news section, because none of our rants ever get solved. We just come up with new ones each week. Some of them the same ones sometimes.
It makes us feel better to get it out.
Yes. Just get it off your chest. Free yourself. We got Copilot side pane as our new topic of our first topic of the day, and that is, let me pull this up. Let's put this on the screen. Yes, here we go. Microsoft is testing out a new side pane for Copilot, and I wrote in my piece about how Microsoft has had issues with the side pane, particularly in Edge, but it looks like they might have figured out a way to circumvent all of that And in doing so, they may have just teased out what the new UI for Windows is going to be. And I'll get to all of that. I'll put all these pieces together in a second. The issue with side pane in Edge, all of us have kind of, dealt with it over the past 6 years, is, it used to be a place where you had collections, and you could do a bunch of other things with it. And then they moved it over to, you can put mini apps in, which I do use often. Then it became Bing Chat, and now it's become Copilot in some aspects and has a floating window. There's also the new, if you're testing out Edge, there's another version of Copilot on the other side of it. They're just, they're having trouble putting Copilot where it needs to be on Edge. But it seems like going forward, what they're going to do instead is just put Copilot in the taskbar as your end-all be-all destination. For those of us who've been testing the latest versions of Windows, it's your general search now. You can go into the Copilot search window and find things local on your device via the web or from Copilot search in general. And it looks like instead of what it used to do was if you needed something from the web, it would link out to Edge or your preferred browser if you could figure out the way to kind of make it a new default. Instead, it's just going to pull up a new website pane within Copilot. And I say this is the future of Windows is because, again, if they're putting all the settings, things that, local files, your file explorer, essentially, most of the functions that you have, if you need to pull up an app, instead of having just apps pinned on the desktop, you just go down to Copilot, and Copilot can start to figure out your usage of certain things. It'll start to, pull up apps in your search that it knows that you're going to need next. So again, if I go to plan the podcast and I use PowerPoint, I'll use OneNote, I'll use, the Edge browser. If I start with just, all right, PowerPoint, and then I go to, type in, I need something else, it'll suggest, hey, do you want OneNote right now? Should I bring up the Edge browser? And do I need to preload it with StreamYard? I think instead of us, having so many other clicks around the desktop, you're just going to go to Copilot. I think that's the future where I think Windows wants. But this window pane is, I think, the early steps of that. What are your thoughts on that? Or am I just way off?
No, I think you're right on target. I think, if Microsoft can get you into Copilot, let's go through this for 30 seconds. If they can get you into Copilot and get you to asking Copilot questions, and that's where you have to go to get things done, what are you tempted to do with some of those questions? You're tempted to put that credit card down and go, okay, they'll fix it. Where if you subscribe to Copilot Pro, you get this. You'll get that answer. So what are you going to do? You're going to subscribe to Copilot Pro. You're going to give them their money, and you're going to get your answer and your task completed because you're going into it anyway. So it's a way for them to satisfy investors and sell some more Copilot. I get that. I did read when this came out that you would be able to save your passwords in Copilot. Now, there's some questions there about security. I saw that pop up right away on some posting and some messaging. There's some questions there about security. What's that going to be like? What's that going to look like? Because Copilot has been known for not always being the most secure in some ways. So I think that I'm in agreement with you. I think this is where we're going. Now, I will add one thing that needs to be fixed. I looked down at my search bar when you mentioned that you could use Copilot in the search bar. I love being able to do that. It's one of my favorite new features of Windows. But when you type it in the search bar, I need the answer in the search bar. Because what you do is when you type it in, it launches Copilot up on over to the left or to the right of your screen. It would be nice if there was not a workflow break there, where you could type it in the search bar, type your prompt in, and Copilot would pop up there and give you your answer. The other thing, while they're fixing, if they want to fix something for me and they want to do something nice, the copy paste needs to be a little better too. You put some things in there and it puts the other brown color behind it, for lack of a better way to put it, and you can't copy paste, and you have to ask it again, hey, can you give this to me in a way that I can copy paste? And then it'll put, like in a command prompt type view, and then you can copy paste out. Little things like that would make this a much easier way for people to go, and I think people would adopt this side pane idea.
I think so too. We'll keep an eye on this going forward, but I think that's, again, they're going to keep building more and more functions into Copilot